Welcome back to more Beerline modeler weathering. So our current subject for weathering is going to be this gondola by Tangent. Like anything made by Tangent, it's a beautiful model. All the in detail, so nicely done. Of course, the underframe has everything you would never see, but still, it's okay. These are great cars. They span a few decades in eras in life because, you know, from the Pennsy, because I believe this is an old Pennsy car. You have Penn Central, then it goes into Conrail and Norfolk Southern. As a child, I grew up with Conrail. I saw these cars quite often in Conrail paint. This is my son's car, and he has 3 of these gondolas. One in Penn Central, one in the Pennsy patched for Conrail, and then a just regular Conrail. As I said before, the Conrail one, I remember those quite a bit as a child, watching those go by through my hometown of Anderson, Indiana. So today's, well, before we get started with today, some prep work I do. I pull the trucks off. I always weather without trucks on. I coated the car with Krylon matte finish out of a spray can. I use this for all my clear coating, including over decals. It's never harmed the decals. And in fact, between using Walther's Solvaset and True Color paints, the decal film just totally disappears. I've also went ahead and with my airbrush and some True Color grimy black, I went ahead and sprayed the trucks with my airbrush. These have the rotating bearing caps, which does represent a little challenge in weathering. We've also, I went ahead and painted the wheels Tamiya NATO Brown. I went ahead and painted those, and I have not touched the bearing caps yet. The bearing caps will do kind of towards the end to get them to blend a bit with the truck side frames. It's kind of a challenge with these, so with the rotating caps, but it'll work and it'll be fine. So for today, we're going to weather the interior of the gondola. And that's going to basically be 2 steps. The first step will be with a mixture of the Americana acrylic paint. I've got some burnt umber here, and then I've got lamp black, which is really just their black. And I'm going to mix those to get kind of a dark brown color, and we're going to not really dry brush, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to splotch it along kind of where these panels are. And then we'll go back through with a more lighter rust colored oil paint wash, and we'll then put a second layer on. So all right, shaking up the burnt umber here. I'm just going to put in, ooh, that looks good. This is pretty cheap stuff. I'm not even sure if it's over $2 a bottle yet. I'm shaking up the black. Sorry about that. You can kind of see how much I put in there. Just a little bit. Get it down here in the bottom so we can mix it easier. And for the black, oh, let's start with that. I have no set formula. In fact, I like all my paint mixtures to vary from model to model so that the weathering varies. And I need one of my stir sticks, a little piece of skewer. I'm going to mix that up. And actually, that looks pretty decent right off the bat. Okay, wipe that off. Okay. So I got a paper towel here. I'd rather err on the side of caution and not put on too much paint. It's easier to go back and dab a little more on. So, oops, shoot, that's not good. We'll pretend we didn't see that. Okay. So here we go. I'm kind of in a little close here so you can kind of see what I'm doing, but I'm just not really putting much on there. I'm just about like that. I'm going to dab a little bit off on my paper towel here. We're going to start with this. So now, if you're like most model railroaders, you're a bit on the OCD side. I'm asking you to let that go. No two of these are going to be the same. Okay. Now, kind of looks like paint just blotched on there. Yes, we're going to layer more on. So we're going to go ahead and do this on the entire interior of the car. Okay. Okay, we're ready for the next step. We've got all that acrylic mixture we mixed up just a bit ago, and so that's kind of like a base coat. You know, rust has texture. Rust is rough, and we're trying to emulate that. So we're going to go ahead and put him back up on his side. Actually, not yet. I'm going to get my oils mixed before I put on the side again and risk knocking it over. So I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. So I always mix my paints up on a piece of aluminum foil. It just seems to work. So our two colors we're going to use, Winton & Newton Ivory Black, and it's Winsor & Newton, sorry, Winsor & Newton. And then the other Winsor & Newton is Ochre Rouge Transparent, or Ochre Rogue. Anyway, it's kind of an orangey color, transparent red ochre. How about that? So, need a little bit of black. Don't need much. Black oil paint goes a very long ways. That's plenty. And this, what I'm going to do here is kind of similar to when I really rust a galvanized boxcar roof. So, there. Okay. Move these out of our way. Micro brush, handiest thing in the world. So we're just going to take a little sliver of that, and we're going to start mixing it in. We can always add more black. Looks like we're about there. I've done this so many times I can almost predict what my mixture will turn out to be. If you're just starting to do this, mix paints, when you're darker, you want to mix your darker color into your lighter color and go very conservative. It's always easier to add more darker color, but it's nearly impossible to lighten up your color. You'll run out of paint. Okay, so here on the left, this is going to be our rust stain we're going to use. And we're going to thin it. So I got a little jar of mineral spirits, old baby food jar from when my kids were little many years ago. And I'm actually going to use a bit finer. I think I will use this brush. It's about the size brush I'm going to use. Just a cheap brush. Most of my weathering brushes are very cheap. Okay. So I'm going to stand him back up on his side. We're not going to knock him over this time. I'm going to zoom the camera in. Now first, this will look a bit glossy because the mineral spirits will make it look wet. But once it dries and once we're clear coated, it'll have a good dry, rough rust collar. So I'm going to take this micro brush, and I'm just going to show you here, but I'm going to keep it out of the view so I can focus what I'm doing. We're just going to put a little blob up on the brush here. And all I'm going to do is just kind of just dab it on, just like that. Get a little bit more. Oops. Yeah, a little bit on the other parts of the car, it's all right. It's a Penn Central car, it's going to look bad anyways. Or Penn Central. We just love to beat up on them, don't we? Okay, so let's just stick with those 4 panels so for the sake of moving along here. Now, so we'll get some mineral spirits on our brush here. Just kind of see my process. And then I am just going to I'm going to tilt the car ever so bit like this. And I'm going to zoom back in. And we're just going to start dabbing. Start dabbing. Let's get some more. That paint just starts spreading. Now, what kind of effect did we get? Well, let's look. Now look at that. That's a rusty gondola interior right there. You can see how you get that bleeding that rust does. So all we got to do now, and this is the nice relaxing part, we're just going to do this down all the interior of the car. So get a bit more paint back up on our thing. I'm going to move this out of my way. It's really kind of tricky to do this on camera. So we just start dabbing the paint on. That's all we're doing. Dab, 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 dab. Like I said, this is how I do box carburetors too. This same technique. I learned it from Jason Quinn, who lives not too far from me here in Indiana. Jason has Quinn's Weathering Depot. He's a phenomenal weathering person. I always read his articles whenever he publishes them, but I learned to do this from Ken Patterson's What's Neat, February 2018. And Jason showed his methods for weathering box carburetors to make them look really rusted. And of all things, he used a Penn Central boxcar. Jason's a good guy. Always enjoy it when I get to meet up with him. Okay, oh, you probably didn't see that. I was busy talking. All right. So we got oil paint on all our panels. Now we're just going to go through and start just down this whole side of the car. We're not looking for perfection. That darker color will kind of show through this oil wash, and you'll get your different levels and shades and textures of rust. A little quicker to do the gondola. Typically a boxcar roof, a 50-foot car, can take me a couple hours to weather like this. 86-foot auto parts car, ooh, probably about 4 hours. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes before I do the rest of the car. Oop, well, I about tipped over again, so I'm going to show you guys here. So there you can see. Now, yes, it looks shiny right now. That's starting to dry a little bit over there. You're starting to get that dirty rust, rough, tetanus shot required rust. Okay, I got all the sides and the ends done. Now I'm going to take a different brush here, and I'm going to put a little bit of oil paint on it, this same rust mixture I'm using, to do the floor. And we're just going to, let's get more on there. So here we go, we're just going to start dabbing it on there. And I'm going to dab the entire floor, so you're along for the ride. Okay, make sure you guys can see that. Let's move some stuff over here. Again, we're not being too exact or scientific. We're just want it so to just stain. I've often seen these cars after rain, they've got water sitting in them, so I guess that's really what causes a lot of the rusting. That, and probably they get treated pretty roughly. I mean, it's just a gondola, what do you expect? Scrap metal, sometimes aggregates. And this is also a Penn Central car. And I wish I'd beat open poor old Penn Central. When I started modeling as a youth, Penn Central was a dirty word you never mentioned. Now, it's one of the most popular railroads to model. It's just a change in generations. And I don't blame it for being interesting and popular because, quite frankly, when you look at what all Penn Central has to offer, it is a modeler's delight, especially if you like the weather. You know, everything is beat up, it's distressed, including the track and the infrastructure. And from a modeling standpoint, that is interesting. The reason I like the Milwaukee Road part of it. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, get some thinner on, or yeah, mineral spirits, and here we go. We're just going to start bleeding it around. Let the paint do the work for us. Look at that. Looks like water's been sitting in there, causing it to rust. You know, it's not really taking that long to get to this point. It's not hard to do. There's not any special skills. Probably the biggest thing to learn is what colors to choose. And don't be afraid to try different things. Especially don't be afraid to mix your colors. Look at that. Look how that's all just bleeding around. Go back, work that a little more. The nice thing too about oils, you can go back and work this stuff around. Look at that. That's pretty good. I've never really done it this way before. Now we can see a little spot here. We're going to throw a little paint there and bleed it because we can. There. Okay. So that's going to be it for now. This needs to set overnight before I clear coat it, or dull coat it with the matte finish I showed you earlier, and then we'll start working on the exterior of the car. We're going to use some of these same techniques, some of these same collars, and there's a little bit of a pattern to weathering on the sides of these, as you can imagine, with all these. I'm not sure how to describe this stuff. Oh, sorry. How to describe some of this on the bodywork here. I think that's probably like they do on the roof of cars, is they use this to strengthen the sides up, just like they put the ridges on the roof of your car, etc. So, okay, alrighty. So till the next video, and we'll carry on further with this project. Thank you for watching very much. Have a great day.